Now this video is particularly special because as a watch enthusiast, it's not that often that you get the opportunity to go see a Microbrand in person before you actually purchase it, right? 99 times out of 100, you're gonna have to order online and you don't get to see it in the flesh until it actually gets to you. But I was traveling to Southeast Asia. I was gonna be in Bangkok, Thailand, the home of WISE watches. And I had an opportunity to go to the Iconsiam mall, to one of their kiosks, and see a huge selection of their watches. So we're in the Iconsiam mall in Bangkok, one of the largest, most prestigious malls in Bangkok, and we're on our way to see something you don't usually get to see as a watch enthusiast, and that's actual Microbrand watches in the hand, up close and personal, before you have to unbox them in the mail at home. I'm gonna be checking out one of my favorite Microbrands, WISE by Thailand. It's the only watchmaker specifically in Thailand, and we're gonna go check them out right now. They're just across with a kiosk from the Volvo booth. Let's go check it out. To pick out which one was best for me. And the funny thing here is that I went with the belief that there was 3 potential watches I was gonna look at most closely and end up purchasing one of them. And it was none of those watches I eventually bought. This watch was not on my radar, even though it's on their website. I had looked at it, but when you look at a website, there are certain limitations that take effect, and that's the screen you're looking on plays a role into the color and detail representation. The cameras they use to snap those pictures play a role. Are those photos edited? That plays a role. The lighting they use when they take those pictures and videos plays a role. All of this plays a role. So what you see online isn't a 100% true representation of what you see up close. And this watch did not look appealing online, but when I put it on wrist, it was easily the best one of the bunch for me. So that's the advantage I had here, and I want to share this experience with you. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and accompany me to Thailand to check out WISE watches. And a quick shout out to Peter Costa. It's because of him and his YouTube channel that I was turned on to WISE watches in the first place and started researching the brand and found out what it is about them that makes it a watch I just had to have in my collection. And to fully understand that, I'll also go a little bit into the 3 things I look for in a watch most and how the WISE watch fits all 3. Let's get into it. So I'm at the WISE kiosk now. As you can see, they carry a large selection of their watches. Some of them you're not going to recognize because you won't actually find them online. They have a number of these kiosks in quite a few different malls in and around Bangkok, because Bangkok is actually the home of WISE watches. Highlighted right now is this is their 15th anniversary. They've been in business for 15 years as a successful bright Microbrand, and this is a limited release to select to actually celebrate that moment. It's got a 24 karat gold face. Let's check it out. So there are 3 things that attract me to a watch, and I'll put them in order of most important to least important, but these 3 things are all very important to me. And the first of which is value, right? I don't want to get ripped off. I don't. And I do understand that there are certain things that will inflate value to a certain extent, say like brand, right? If a watch comes from a very reputable brand that has a long, rich history, then of course you're going to pay up for that. But that's not something I want to pay too much for. I'm very attracted to Microbrands because although they don't have the brand history, quite often they do have the capability and the quality behind them. So you'll save money going with a Microbrand 9 times out of 10. So value is very important to me, but right up there with value is finishing. I like a very well finished watch. Finishing is extremely important to me. You'll notice that a lot of my watches tend to be high polished pieces, right? Because that really accentuates how well finished they are. You know, I'll look to the dials and make sure that they're immaculate, perfectly symmetrical, right? Everything is placed just so. If it's got a rotating bezel, I don't like any back play. I like it to hit the markers bang on. When it comes to the movements, they're not as important to me, but the better quality movement I can get for the money, the better quality movement I'll pay for, right? So all of those things kind of factor into the finishing of a watch. And then the last thing, and this maybe not as important as the first two, but it's still very important to me, is that it's got to be a little bit unique. There's got to be something unusual about it, right? And some watches that have many copies and models produced are still unique to a certain extent. Like that, I'm not a G-Shock person, but if I was, I would understand how G-Shock has such a strong following because of the unique design behind it, right? Even though there are so many models of G-Shock out there, finding the one that's uniquely yours is part of the fun. So when I'm looking at this particular watch, all three of those things stand out to me. And the first of which is, let's just begin with the finishing, okay? So it's got 904L stainless steel, right? The same level of stainless steel that Rolex uses, that Rolex affectionately calls oyster steel. This uses that. So you're getting a very high quality product from a material standpoint right off the beginning. And to continue with that frame of thinking, it has an enamel dial. When you look to watches that include an enamel dial, they generally begin at around $1,500. You're kind of starting with Seiko in most cases, and then it goes up from there depending on the level of the enameling and how intricately it's done. Now this is a base enamel dial, but it's of a color that you don't really see anywhere else. And that's where the uniqueness comes in. This is a very unique colorway. And as I had mentioned earlier, online, it doesn't really grab you, but in person, it looks fantastic. And it's so versatile. It matches practically everything. Then when you look at the finishing, the applied markers are perfect. Absolutely perfect. This, although I would say is more of a dress piece than a sports piece, does have a screw down crown. And the latch on it is immaculate. It never misses, right? It's just smooth. It's got a date display and it's centered perfectly every single time. Like they put an infinite amount of detail into the design of this watch. Just because something isn't made in Switzerland, this is made in Thailand, doesn't mean it isn't made to a high degree. So lastly, we'll look at value. And I've had this watch on in 2 different watch stores since I purchased it, right? I'll occasionally go to watch stores, check out their pre-owned section, look at some of the new models that are in stock, try some things on just to see how they fit me. And the sales staff that worked there, and in both cases, I was actually dealing with a sales manager, they'll notice this watch because they've never seen it before, right? WISE watches in Canada is an unknown quantity. People don't know it, but they'll notice it right away because it's so striking. And when you're in a watch store and you've got the jewelry lighting going on, it just shines. Eventually, they'll ask me about it. So I'll tell them, I was recently on a trip. I went to where the home of WISE watches is. I looked at a number of their models and I purchased this one. And I asked them, how much do you think it is? And I give them the particulars. It's got a Miyota 9000 series movement. It's got an enamel dial. It's 904L stainless steel. They get a good look at it. 100 meters of water resistance, screw down crown, the whole deal. Excellent lume. Both of them have given me the exact same response. I would put it somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. And then when I tell them that I paid like $600 American for this, it blows their mind. It absolutely blows their mind because all they deal with are established brands, and established brands are going to charge you a premium for the recognition of that brand. People just don't realize how much of a premium they're paying. It's significant. And until you start purchasing microbrands, you don't really notice it. But what you get with this watch at its price point is unheard of. And that's why I went ahead and I pulled the trigger on my WISE watch 8791. Let me know what watches are in your collection. Let me know if there's any watches you'd like to see me take a look into, maybe review, and stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be going over all the watches in my collection as well as some of my friends' collections over the next year or two on this channel. This has become my primary focus, why we buy it. If you want advice on making the best purchasing decisions for you, subscribe to this channel. It's not just watches. We cover a little bit of everything. If it's something you purchase, something of value, something with competition in the market, we'll cover it. Until next time.